Hello and welcome to Media Lite, where we talk about the media that matters to us right now. And we have an incredibly special show planned for you tonight because, Kris, I'm looking at you on my screen right now, but just
hmm
a few short days ago, I was
hmm
with you in person, experiencing live music together. Tell the folks where we were and why we were able to meet up.
Yeah, dude, I'm so glad you didn't bury the lead because I wasn't going to either. I was just going to jump right in and just say that I'm always excited to be podding after I've just podded with you recently. It's a totally different
Hmm.
experience to see you again so soon after seeing you in person. Still totally full and riding high from being in your presence. The reason I was in your presence, the reason we have gathered
Hmm.
here tonight to for a media light is because we went to see Rilo Kiley live at the MGM
Hmm.
Music Hall at Fenway Park in Boston. What an experience! Not just to see a fantastic live performance at a fantastic venue, but to do it with my good buddy Randy, who I see too rarely in person. It was wonderful, buddy.
Yeah, I could not possibly agree with you more. I would have been happy to check out any live music, but this was something that we've podcasted about together.
hmm hmm
This was a band that you were kind enough to let me introduce you to through the format of our podcast. You let me introduce you to some of my friends who also loved this music, and you shared that with us. And then, sure enough, there we were in person. I got to introduce you to another one of my buddies, Nick. Shout out to Nick, who went on the full Rilo Kiley deep dive to prep for
Yeah.
this concert. And to see these people in person, we had just been reflecting upon. It was just a truly deeply special experience, and I'm so glad I got to do it with you. I mean, our Rilo Kiley episode is the most listened to episode of Media Lit at this time, as of this recording.
The most listened to episode.
Hmm.
And for good reason. I think it was like right after we dropped that episode that they announced this tour. It was very, very fortunate that we had that conversation. When we did, I hope that folks have enjoyed revisiting their own memories as they prepared for the tour. That was the big impression that I had. Not to get too far ahead of us and spoil the conversation tonight, but man, the nostalgia vibes in that room, the comfort vibes of returning to a familiar place were so palpable.
Beautiful. Kris, before we get too into that previous episode and what actually went down at this concert, would it be too warm and fuzzy for me to ask you about your just favorite moment of podcast connection that we had in person together over the course of the evening? It was a great time.
Okay, I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't want to spoil a later portion of the show where we're going to be giving out some awards.
Sure, sure.
But there was a moment in the show where there was a bit of banter going on, and Blake dropped a line that you and I both in the exact same moment. We stopped, we looked at each other, and we made the same exact connection from our shared memory of podcasting together. That for me is easily the standout highlight. We spend a ton we've been doing this now for almost 2 whole years. So despite not seeing each other in person, we have quite a bit of time logged
Yeah.
together. And it was nice to be in person and be able to reach into those moments of shared experience to heighten the experience together then. It was wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only thing I will add, because I think a lot of these connections are going to come out through our conversation tonight, but two moments that were kind of equal for me. One was that moment in the concert when you get to lean over, say something to one of the people that you showed up at the concert with, and I got to tell you that the execution of all things. Uh, I'm sorry, not the execution of all things. I got to tell you that the good that won't come out was my
Mm.
first favorite Rilo Kiley song, and we got to hear them play it. And then later I got to lean back over when they played It's a Hit, which I believe was amongst your favorite tracks from More Adventurous back when we recorded our pod. So we got to share in our favorites. And I guess an honorable mention would be when you surprised me with us going live on Instagram. I was in the middle of like pontificating about how tough it is to break through in the entertainment industry, even if you have some big wins in your column. And all of a sudden, the camera was in my face. And I'm so glad you surprised me with it because I would have overthought it. So that was a really fun experience for me, uh, as much as I was a fish out of water in that moment.
Well, you rose to the occasion beautifully, as I knew you would. It was strategic to spring it on you for sure.
Beautiful. So, Kris, it's the vibes, it's the nostalgia, but from an intellectual standpoint, That Rilo Kiley episode, yes, Jenny Lewis reposted us, and that's part of why it's our most listened to episode. But I think we went deep into why people make such an emotional connection with that music, especially people who were experiencing it in college or in high school at the time when
Mhm.
it was coming out, reflecting the state of the world at that time. So I've got to ask, were there any points in this live show, 20 years later, where more adventurous in our conversation about that album were really front of mind?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you phrased it really well. You highlighted the idea that you said that I allowed you to introduce me to these
Yeah.
friends of yours. It was such a privilege for me to join that conversation and to hear you three reflect so beautifully, so fondly on your time together, and your time sharing this music. It was a time to explore what this music meant to you individually at that time in your lives, and also what it meant to you in your various pairings and groupings. As I said earlier in the intro, that vibe was so palpable
Mm.
while I was in the show. So not only was it a wonderful to hear these songs again and reflect on our conversation, reflect on the memories you shared for a given track and your experience with it at the time, but everywhere I looked, there was a certain generation of people who were there.
Yeah.
We were all pretending it was 2007 again, and I couldn't help but imagine I was witnessing groups of people in the room with me, much like the one that I potted with, folks who probably don't get together all that often anymore.
Hmm.
But this band was going to play live, and this is something special that they shared, and they were going to go out, they were going to set aside the time, they were going to gather together and enjoy some live music. It was beautiful to behold. It made the space feel really safe. I think I said that to you when we were there.
Yeah.
And I remember our conversation feeling the same way. There's something very safe about a group of folks who have such shared values, and you know
Yeah.
that you have those shared values.
Yeah. I love the way you framed that. I mean, it takes a lot for me at this point in my life to go out to a concert late at night
Oh,
on a
dude,
school night.
dude.
I made it. I had a nice trip home. I was there at work bright and early the next day and had a great day. I'm happy to report. But I was nervous going in. I was like, can I handle this? Will I make it? But they really carried me right through it. In terms of our more adventurous pod, I had a couple of really specific things on my mind. I wore my Kurt Vonnegut t-shirt
Yeah, you did.
to the concert. And I didn't wear it just because I love Kurt Vonnegut and I was going to see Kris. I suppose that was part of it. But when we dug into more adventurous, we got into like Bush era politics. We got into reflections on war and conflict. So to bring in like the vibe of Vonnegut was there, like, just in case we heard a song like Love and War, which my guy Blake Sennett referred to as a weird one, uh,
Yeah.
when they were reminiscing about possible tracks. Uh, but no, there was one moment, again, we were on the same wavelength. You started talking to me and we were saying something that was in my mind. When Jenny performed Does He Love You? And she kicked that off. There's that line, he holds your tiny face in his hands. And
Yeah.
our buddy Stevie talked so much about how that
Hmm.
line impacted her at a certain point in her life and a certain point in her development. And it was also meaningful because all four of us really loved that song on the pod, but Madison and Stevie like notably ranked it a little bit higher than us.
Hmm.
And we love our podcast, but every once in a while we talk about how much better our conversations are when we have strong female perspectives. And that was such a great example of it. And Jenny really brought the house down. She was really acting out all of those thematic things we talked
Yeah.
about what her life should or shouldn't be, could or couldn't be. It was really moving, and it was all the more moving because of our podcast.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I probably invoked Stevie's name in that moment during the show, right? Because
Hmm.
that folks come to our podcast. I think we've said before when our guests can be vulnerable with us and share
Hmm.
things that are truly vulnerable, it means the world to me. And that conversation with Stevie really lingers in my mind for that reason.
Hmm. Yeah.
And to your point, Jenny crushed it. I think there was
Yeah.
I got this sense watching them both in their banter and in their performances. Like Blake and Jenny are both performers, right? They happen to be
Hmm.
musicians right now, and they're expressing their creativity through music, but they're both also actors, and you just see that fullness of the performer in them.
Hmm.
It's not just the musical talent; it is stage presence and everything that goes with it. And there's a certain, to your point, there's such a narrative to that song, and she lived it for us. It was beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. one of the very unhinged things that I did in preparation for this podcast was I went sifting through YouTube and I sent poor Kris a giant link of grainy old YouTube videos of almost every single song in the set list when I last saw Rilo Kiley in September of 2007. Um, and I got to see Does He Love You back then, and it was a great performance, but this performance over this past weekend, there was an extra sort of like honesty and heart to it and an extra
Mm,
physicality to that particular performance, even though they were both great.
hmm
That struck me. Like I could feel another 20 years of reflection on Jenny's part in that song. And it was really moving. This wasn't just a cash grab reunion tour. Right. I don't get the sense that they're looking to get the band back together long term or anything, but I think
hmm
this was really meaningful and cathartic for them. At least if it wasn't, they sure communicated that to me. So thank you either way, members of Rilo Kiley.
Amen.
Of course, Kris, we didn't just get to experience Rilo Kiley together. Um, we had a pretty fun opening act. It was an artist I wasn't super familiar with going in, but I like to do my homework, as is well established on this podcast. And I saw that we were going to get to hear Natalie Bergman.
hmm
So I listened to a few of her tracks. I heard a lot of stuff that I really liked. I was particularly thrilled when I noticed that she did a whole collaboration with my favorite musician of all time, Beck Hansen.
Hmm.
And I was like, man, how has she not hit my radar? So, Kris, how'd Natalie Bergman do opening up for this nostalgia-packed crowd?
Set the tone
Hmm.
perfectly, right? You told me ahead of time that I was going to vibe on her sound and on her in general, and you were so right. I think we were trying to nail down the nature of her voice, and I think
Mm.
the first thing I said to Nick was that, my gosh, it could be 1973. You could close your eyes and be back in time with the authentic soul of the music we were listening to and the soul of the voice who was
Hmm.
performing it, right? Natalie Bergman um, was delightful in her talent. And I think what I said, what we kind of landed on a blend of Macy Gray and
Yeah.
Nora Jones. Is that what I said? And I think I stand by that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So she was fantastic. Anytime you're at a concert, you're ready by the end for the main act to come on stage.
Yeah.
But I was locked in for every note of every song. And when I realized she was winding down, I became excited for the next act to come on, for Rilo Kiley to come on. But at no point during her set was I like, okay, how many more are you gonna do? It was wonderful, and I was so tickled. I think I told you, my neighbor Mike across the street, good buddy, great guy, and a huge fan of music. Somebody whose taste I really respect. He's that person I'm almost intimidated to talk about music with because his
Hmm.
taste, like yours, feels so much more developed than
Oh,
my own.
Kris.
Come on. And so when I had thrown up some social content during the show of Natalie's performance, I got that text from Mike saying, "Did you see Natalie Bergman tonight? Man, I love her." And I was
Mm.
like, an extra cloud nine. I was already in cloud nine being out with you and seeing Rilo Kiley, but knowing that I may have earned the respect of Cool Mike across the street, I was thrilled.
Yeah, and before we get into our shared favorite thing about Natalie Bergman's performance, which we haven't touched on just yet, I just got to shout out like the concerts I've been to over the years. The opening act has often been maybe a performer who I don't want to say is washed up, but maybe a group that's past their prime. They're there to support someone else who is up and coming. I haven't been to like a million concerts where the opening act is like a true up and comer who's about to hit it big, and that's always exciting when it happens. Um, it's happened to me one other time, and this was back in 2003, the first time I went to see the aforementioned Beck Hansen in concert. And I saw this little two-person bands hop up on stage with their kind of sad little banner that said the Black Keys on it. And I was really struck by their unique vibe and sound. And before long, they had taken the world by storm and they were superstars in their own right. More recently, they did their own collaboration with Beck, made it into the Grammy nominations. And
Hmm
listen, I do not know enough about music to know who's going to hit and who isn't. But Natalie Bergman's latest single, Gunslinger,
Mm.
It's so freaking catchy and so freaking good. It dropped last April. The latest album dropped this summer. And I would love it if people listen to this song because I think they're gonna really love what they hear. So I'm really happy I got to experience her, and I hope that she's at the beginning of a phase of her career that's really rich and rewarding.
I hope that she helps to bring back the grand art of the tambourine. I think I told
Thank
you
you.
during your
Yes.
performance, my wife Kelly and I had just been talking about how it's such a lost art, the simple beauty of the tambourine, and Natalie rocked it perfectly.
Yeah, not only did she have a cool, chill vibe, former Berkeley music student, she
Hmm.
shouted out her earlier time, once upon a time back in Boston.
I got to tell you that I painted the dorm rooms at
You
Berkeley once
did?
upon a time.
Maybe you painted Natalie Bergman's
Maybe I
if
did.
she was staying in the dorms. I don't know. Um, but I never knew that I really cared that much about the tambourine. Not that I never thought it could be used effectively in a song, but Natalie Bergman's technique, the way she handled the tambourine, it looked like she arrived in a time machine from the distant past and showed us how to do it.
Hmm.
Our girl Jenny, who I am well documented as being obsessed with, she is my forever crush, along with about 99% of the audience that was there with me the other night. She did a little tambourine work and she was
Oh yeah.
solid,
Hmm.
but I don't think Jenny would be offended by me saying that Natalie could teach the tambourine in that form. How do you hold that tambourine to anyone? She made it look so cool and effortless. And yeah, I didn't know how much I cared until she showed me. So thank you, Natalie Bergman.
Hmm. Yeah, I couldn't do that little hand to body bop alternating thing that she so smoothly
Yeah.
managed.
Perfect. And before we get back to the main event here, which is Rilo Kiley, just if you're listening to this podcast and you're not familiar with Natalie Bergman's work, she is a multi-instrument musician. She's a songwriter. She was up there rocking out on the guitar, doing everything, but also additionally some tambourine work. So she does it all, but deeply skilled artist. Just in case there's anyone out there with like an anti-tambourine
Right.
stigma, I want to make sure they know that we're talking about a true artist here.
We just really like tambourines.
Yeah, yeah, man. You
So,
said, yeah. Go ahead.
no, I do want to get back to the main event, and I'm just
Yeah,
excited to ask you because I think you have much more experience with Rilo Kiley than I do, and a much deeper connection. So, did Rilo Kiley satisfy like any specific hopes or expectations that you had heading into the show?
yeah. Okay, so I tried very hard not to go in with unrealistic expectations, right?
Hmm.
I saw this band 18 years ago. They've been broken up for quite some time. They've aged alongside myself. I wasn't too worried because they're still out there. They're musicians. They are still fun and vibrant. And Jenny is still out there giving interviews, interacting with folks on social media, creating new art, and pursuing new projects. So it's not like I thought she had stepped away from the artistic process. But I think my main expectation was like, I just hope that I really believe that they are having fun
Mm.
and they are into it and they
Mm.
look genuinely happy to be back together. And I think they truly delivered on that most basic expectation. The only other one was, again, I won't make you sit through the story right now, Kris. This is a media light after all. But on our previous Rilo Kiley pod, Stevie and I really waxed poetic about Jenny's performance of the song I Never back in 2007. It was transformative for both of us. It's a performance that pushed that song up my rankings, and I was really hoping I'd get to see her tackle that song one more time, and I did. So, in terms of like the lowest level of expectations, I was totally satisfied, totally happy, totally thrilled to be a part of it. Even like the aesthetic Jenny's selected for this tour, the sometimes when you're on, you're really fucking on tour. She's kind of going for this kind of playfully like schoolgirl, like the knee-high socks, a tiara in many performances.
Hmm.
And I feel like she's really leaning into the fun of the nostalgia. There's like this layer of poking fun at the process, but also truly loving it. So all the vibes were there, and I was so happy. How about for you, man? What were your expectations going in? Your relationship's a little different than mine.
It my only expectations going in, my only hopes going in were that my perceived or my perception of their vibe, my perception
Mm,
of like what kind of scene they belonged to
yeah.
back in 2007 was accurate and familiar. And it was exactly that, from their fashion aesthetic to your point. Like Jenny's got this like kind of kishy vibe going on with the knee high socks, little black bows behind the knee,
Yes.
and these like kitten heel Mary Janes, right? Like very kishy,
Mm-hmm.
very um like just a little offbeat, right? In a very
Mm-hmm.
2007 indie rock way. And so like their aesthetic, their vibe was like exactly on point. And then similarly, the energy of the show. Randy, this is
Mm,
where I think I revealed to you perhaps that live music is not something I have ever really loved. It
interesting.
takes a really specific vibe for me to want to be amongst a bunch of people in that kind of
Mm-hmm.
a loud, chaotic atmosphere. And 311 is one that I really enjoy. What I
Yeah.
need is a chill vibe, as I said before, a safe environment. And this was exactly that. They filled that space with sound, right? There was nothing small about their performance. It's not about that, but it's about a certain like balance of the music and the performance and the energy with the crowd, the feedback of the crowd, and all of that was there. So I guess I can't totally attribute that only to Rilo Kiley, but it starts with them setting the tone with their performance and their energy together, which was, um, I think I said it before, familiar, but not necessarily in
Mm-hmm.
a way of like seeing Jenny and Blake together did make me feel like I was looking in on like friends hanging out. I
Mm-hmm.
It felt like I was seeing Sonny and Cher, like the most
Ah.
familiar variety pair in the world. Like we've been on stage together a million times. We know every beat of the jokes, even if they're new jokes and it's not some repetition. There's there's a shared language and a shared energy. So they set that tone. But I think the audience then was reciprocal in that, both with one another and with the band. So the vibe absolutely met my expectations spot on.
Yeah, I love the way you said that. And Chris, I hope you won't mind me stepping on our future outline here, where we are going to dig a little bit deeper into the banter, which was really on point that night.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the Sonny and Cher, like old-timey performance colleague vibe, twice throughout the show, when referring to their old work, they would kind of look at one another, Blake and Jenny, they would smile, reference a song, and say, "That old chestnut."
Twice they did say it. Yes, wonderful. Yeah, first Jenny
And
said it, and then Blake said it again later.
yeah, that was like a real embodiment.
Yeah.
So Chris, I'm going to throw it right back at you. Those were your expectations going in. That was what they meant. Uh, were there any ways that they exceeded your expectations?
Like one really specific and important way.
Sure.
They sounded incredible.
Mm.
They sounded far better than I expected them to sound live. This is a style of music that is not super polished and it's not meant to be. There's a lot of feeling in it. There's a lot of poetry in the
Mm-hmm.
lyrics. Um, it's the kind of music that if it isn't well balanced between the vocal performance and the volumes there and the percussion, it can all get a little clashy. And sometimes that's like the rawness that you're looking for from indie music.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like listenability, of familiarity to the when you wonder whether or not the live thing is going to sound the way you expect it to sound according to the timing and the tone of the recorded version that you're so familiar with. Um, they had that in spades.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how like album quality they sounded live. Jenny's voice is tremendous. She uses her instrument
Yeah.
um, in a way that you can just tell is so practiced, so
Yeah.
intentional, right? Um, and likewise, every musician on stage was on top of their game. It was not as if they were coming out of any lengthy retirement or any time away from one another on stage.
Yeah. I'm just going to jump in and answer my own question because like I said, all I needed for them to do was to feel like they were having fun, to
Mm.
feel like they were really there, feeling the music in the moment, and they were. But listen, I keep mentioning this 2007 concert. I mentioned me insanely posting 1,000 YouTube videos into our outline today that were mostly just there for me. I did not watch all of them, but I looked back on some of these formative experiences, and memory is such a fleeting thing. I played back the 2007 I Never video, and I was like waiting for the moment that I remembered of Jenny sort of like playing the song partly from her knees And for a second, I panicked I had made it up. But it's kind of like right at the climax of the song, like after she's done with the I nevers, you can see her like drop down. So
Wonderful.
that had shifted like just a little bit in my mind. That was a great concert. I loved it. But when I was looking up all this stuff, like I encountered one review of the show that was like a little bit lukewarm, like one or two people who were like a little bit disappointed with it. That was certainly not my experience. Um, but to go back and see these songs that they played with and added some extra energy to, like, uh, Rilo Kiley in any band, they will always do like a jam out session, like an
Mhm.
outro for their songs. That's not unique to this band. But to see them taking those things even further than I had seen in the past, to seeing like Blake do like bigger windmills with his arms than he was doing as an 18 years younger man on stage that night was incredible. And Ripcord, an intentionally simple song, they put this really zhuzhed up little exclamation point on the end of that had
Mhm.
all these extra layers and nuances to it that blew my mind. In 2007, that was Blake on a
Mhm.
ukulele, and that was beautiful in that venue, and that's one great way to play the song. But I did not expect to see so much like new artistry tacked onto the song. So that was all bonus for me.
Mm. Really well said. Absolutely standout moment. Um, we've danced around it a little bit, and I'm ready
Yeah.
to banter about the banter. Was there anything that stood out to you about that onstage banter between Blake and Jenny?
Yeah, I made this little outline for us, Kris, and this was easily the section I wrote down the most notes for myself.
Nice.
Was in this section. Maybe we can do like just like a little mini round table. We can just kind of go back and forth a couple rounds, see what jumps to the surface. I already snuck in the reference to the old chestnut, um, but I'm gonna go with the impromptu CD signing.
Yeah.
At one point, we hadn't had a lot of banter for like maybe the first third of the concert, but then once they started, they were really interacting with the crowd heavily. Someone down on the floor in the floor seats like tossed a CD up on stage, and Blake was joking that he thought it was a gift. They went around and had everyone in the band sign the CD. They made a big production out of it, made it so special for that fan. And it was one of those moments where you could tell they were happy to be on stage. It was not a bit you could sustain that long if
Mhm.
you were forcing yourself up there. And it felt so fun to look in on that.
Really, really well chosen. What a fun bit. They were like just sarcastic enough when they're like, we're gonna pass it around to everyone. And it took like a little bit longer than like you probably want the energy of your show to have to absorb,
Mm,
right? So that was wonderful. When Blake politely informed the ukulele enthusiast that like tonight's not your viral moment, that was chef's kiss, absolutely perfect. Like just the right amount of like
hmm
funny truth telling on stage.
Yeah.
Like, and again, by no means like making fun of anyone or shitting on anyone, or being maliciously sarcastic, but just like ironic enough.
Oh
Really
yeah.
wonderful.
Well, like what was cool about that one is it started from such a sincere place, right? Because this woman in the audience was saying like, "I love the song. It just is." She said it was her favorite song, one of her favorite songs to play on the ukulele. And like when Blake asked, "Do you have it with you?" Like, yes, on some level, he probably figured that this concert goer did not drag an instrument into the floor seats of this music
Yeah.
hall. Um, but it felt genuine enough that if she had said yes, I really do think he was going to let her go viral up on that stage with the uke. I think we could have seen it.
Yeah, I think he just may have. But I love that he just informed like, oh, shucks, tonight's not your night, and then moved on. Didn't like, let me bring you up here anyways, and
Yep.
like just let it be what it was, which is
Yeah,
very
j
classic.
just the right balance, that performer coming through.
Yeah.
My next one, I've got to just shout out the circumstances of this concert. This concert took place at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway, directly next to Fenway Park, which at the exact same time as our concert was hosting a My Chemical Romance show at Fenway Park at the baseball stadium. Uh, and the jokes were flying about like just sort of like the mixed crowd out there.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I was thinking to myself, I don't think it's that mixed. My Cam and Rilo Kiley were not hitting entirely different people if you want to go back to like 2006 or whatever. Um, But just some like lightly self-deprecating humor, seeing that wraparound crowd when their tour vans first pulled up, and then realizing that there was a lot of like black eye makeup and things that maybe were not typical of a Rilo Kiley concert goer. But doing it with love, right? They certainly were not there trying to uh, throw any shade on My Chemical Romance. In fact, I think I've discovered I had at least three friends who were next door that night at
Oh yeah.
Fenway for My Chem. So the elder millennials were feasting. We are feasting as much as we can right now before we finish getting pushed out of the way. And I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, totally. I agree. It was like just a little bit self-deprecating. She really was highlighting how like almost for a second thought that big crowd was for us, and then
Yeah.
I like how she identified that like she could recognize their people. And
Yeah.
while to your point, I'm sure there's a huge Venn diagram crossover section between
Yeah.
their fans. Music brings out facets of us, right? And we listen to certain things at certain times to satisfy or express an aspect of our personality or of ourself. And these two bands are not the same facets that you're expressing, right? And so, even if I'm the My Chem fan, also when I'm going to Rilo Kiley, I'm not dressed, I'm not
Sure.
adorned in such a way as if I'm going to the My Chem concert, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, there's one other little bit that I want to highlight that seems so simple.
Hmm.
It was the first bit of banter. I don't even remember ultimately what Jenny was saying, but she turned and she said, "Right, right, B man," and that was where I got
Yes.
that first taste of that like that performative familiarity, like Sonny and Cher, like they'd been on stage just 1,001 times together.
Yeah, she had that great timing, right? Because I think that's when the first thing she said to the crowd was, "We recognized you." And then I think it was about three songs later that she explained what she meant. Like, yes, I pulled you out of the crowd from the My Chem fans.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
I meant earlier when I said we recognized you.
When I planted that weird seed, yeah. Let me just explain myself.
All right, I'm just going to do one more because I developed a whole bit about one of these other pieces of banter, so we can cross that bridge when we come to it. But I do just want to shout out, this isn't quite banter, but both Blake and Jenny had a couple like minor hiccups at different points in the show.
Yes, I was going to
Um,
say this last. Yes.
yeah, like the way they so tastefully handled it. Yeah, I believe I heard Jenny say that like she had been performing with a walking pneumonia in recent days. So her voice was like a little bit strained. And when she went into a better son or daughter, we got two versions of sometimes in the fuck.
Yeah.
And on the third one, she still hadn't quite hit the note the way she wanted to, but she kind of powered through and found her way for the rest of the song. But it was so endearing. It's like when an SNL performer breaks. Every once in
Mhm.
a while, it's just a special moment that heightens the experience.
Yeah, there's like such a trust with your audience in that
Hmm.
moment, right? Like you know that I can hit this note. You've heard me do it a thousand times. You love this song. I love this song. We're gonna get through this together. There's such a trust in that vulnerability of being able to just say, ah, fuck, and start again. And
Yes.
Blake was similarly funny. He was like, wait, where is it? Like he couldn't quite find the first few notes in the song he was looking to play. And yeah, just delightful. It's really endearing stuff.
Beautiful. All right, Chris. When I walk away from a concert, whether it's a band that's new to me or a band that I've loved forever, I always walk out of that concert like adding some new songs into my rotation. They might not be songs that are brand new to me, but maybe songs that like I haven't given as much time or attention in recent memory, and all of a sudden I just want to hear them time and time again, like grab a little taste of what happened. You've heard all of More Adventurous. You
Mhm.
podcasted about it. But we've had a full recording schedule this past year. We have been keeping ourselves very busy. I don't think you had time to do like a full deep dive into every Rilo Kiley track, which is okay. So coming out of this concert, are there any new tracks that are now in your Rilo Kiley rotation?
I want to address both aspects of your setup and
Yeah.
your question because I think first and foremost, there's a song from More Adventurous that now sits
Hmm.
much differently in my mind and will certainly be in a heavier rotation. Um, when we first recorded our episode and ranked the songs, I forget where I had portions for Foxes, but
Hmm.
I remember being surprised to hear you all identify it as sort of like the Rilo Kiley song, like the kind of the
Hmm.
hit song, the one that was a little bit more palatable to the average audience. And if you knew any Rilo Kiley songs, you might know that one. That wasn't how I experienced it the first time. Hearing them perform it as like the final song in the official set list before the encore, it hit me exactly that way. Um, and it might be my, I think if I ranked that album again, Portions for Foxes would sit much differently in my ranking, is I guess the best way to say
Yeah.
it. Um, and then as far as like whole cloth newness,
Yeah.
it's got to be the Frug.
Yeah.
Uh, so quirky, so weird in a very Rilo Kiley way. Musically catchy, something that you want to sing and dance along
Yeah.
to. And where it sat in the encore moment of the show was just chef's kiss, perfect introduction to me to this particular song, and the fun little bit of Jenny's dancing that goes with it.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect. And like that was also fun because it was like it was the one surprise, right? This is a reunion tour after all. So like I was looking up the set list and like they've been pretty tight, pretty consistent, pretty similar lineup of songs. So this was like one of the rare breaks. Like I think they've been mixing up like which old chestnut they pull out of like that initial Rilo Kiley album to perform. So I was expecting to hear Always, and when they hopped into the Frug, I lost it. Not only because it was a fun song, but since I became a Rilo Kiley fan, Kris, they've gone back and re-released that first Rilo Kiley album a few different times. But when
Mm,
I first became a fan, you had to work a little bit to like get your hands on the Frug and some of those first albums. Like this is like going back to like Boy Meets World is just barely off the air. One Adam Scott of Severance fame was hanging out with Rilo Kiley, hanging out at the merch table at their shows. Probably sold some people this EP, this release of their initial songs. And it's had a few different versions and re-releases since then. But to get a song that made me feel like such a cool music lover
mm.
in, like 2004 or whatever, I think I had to grab the soundtrack to the movie Desert Blue, starring Christina Ricci, to get access to this. And I think the song 85 was also on there. So yeah, it was so cool to hear that song from a nostalgia point of view.
Yeah, based on the music video that I watched, I can confirm Desert Blue is where the song appears on the soundtrack.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm a pretty obsessive fan, but my new track in the rotation, not new, but the one I kind of walked away with a new appreciation for was Pictures of Success off of Takeoffs and Landings. I've always liked the song, but it's a long song. It's well over 6 minutes. It's like right in the first half of the album mixed in. It's at a moment where sometimes I want to skip it. It's got a very cathartic sort of sound, and I tend to get that from a lot of other great Rilo Kiley songs, like With Arms Outstretched or Spectacular Views. But when they closed out the encore with Pictures of Success and let that be like the final statement, I kept listening to that one on the way home
Mm,
because it's a song that I always liked, but I heard it in a new way.
beautiful, really beautiful.
Do you want to do our little time capsule moment?
Yeah, certainly. So you go first. If you could pick,
Sure.
if you could just like lock in one pristine memory of one performance from the show, what would it be and why?
Well, as we know, I've already got I Never from 2007 locked in. But this time, for me, there were so many great performances, but Does He Love You really
Mm,
stole the show for me this time around.
hmm.
Jenny was fantastic the whole night, but we already spoke to her ability to like emote and perform in that moment. I think they fully captured the sadness of that song. And when I think back to this concert in years to come, I think that's the image I'm going to see first is Jenny hopping into character for that song. And if I could only save one, that's going to be the one I want to emblazon on my memory.
Perfect. Really wonderful. That was, I had two songs written down in my notes. That was one of the two. I didn't have an order for them. These are the two songs I would like to speak about. I figured you would speak to one or the other, so I'm not surprised. Really great pick, and it was such a, as I said before, such a dramatic and powerful performance. Um, for me, I'm going to turn to Blake and Ripcord.
Yeah.
To your point, there was a real depth to this performance, both in the stage setup as everybody sort of receded quietly to the background and Blake took center stage. Um, Blue hue tones came in from the lighting. I was like a really large spot over him, much different in the color tone that we'd had the rest of the show, and it really brought you into the the deeply somber nature of the song.
Yeah.
And so that pristine memory is Blake and that lighting, and he's alone and centered on the stage. And just in the background, you can still see Jenny
Yeah.
half in the light, and
Yes.
she has sat down. There was like such um a reverence to that moment
Mm-hmm.
from the audience, from the performers on stage. Jenny would eventually stand back up and rejoin the song toward the end as it built in some of that layered musical energy that you described before, and it was beautiful when she did. But in the quiet stillness before that, that's the memory I would love to preserve. Um, it was really great.
Yeah, absolutely. And like back in 2007, like this was a moment where Jenny and Blake were both pursuing some alternate projects. You know, Jenny Lewis with the Watson Twins, Rabbit Fur Coat is another like top tier favorite album that could appear on Media Lit someday. Um, Blake was working with the Elected, and I didn't sense any like negativity on stage, but I also didn't sense the warmth that I sensed last night. I apologize if I'm wrong, but I do believe these two, once upon a time in their younger and more vulnerable days, were romantically entwined at one point in their history. And to kind of like move through that, to work together, to move on with their lives, to break up, to find some space back together, and to lovingly call him B-Man, like you mentioned earlier,
Mm-hmm.
was great to see. So love
Yeah,
that choice. It's Blake's moment, and he deserves it. His guitar work, his voice is so essential to the band. It's so easy to talk about Jenny,
yeah.
because she's so dynamic. But Blake Sennett is an incredibly talented musician. There would be no Rilo Kiley, and I bet even Jenny would say there would be no Jenny
Mm.
Lewis as we know her without Blake and their partnership.
Joey the Rat.
I fucking killed it, is Joey the Rat.
Yeah, that was awesome. I can't believe we missed that during the banter bit. That really, he was, dude, he was tremendous. One of my new favorite people.
Yeah, it was waiting for us right there. All right,
Yeah.
before we wrap this thing up, Chris, like we got the Frug,
Yes.
which got me thinking. I've listened to the song a million times, and I realized I didn't really know every single dance in the song. Like I had seen the old video. So for folks at home, I'm not gonna make you sit through a belabored explanation, but I went digging through YouTube to find samples of these dances and what they are supposed to look like. I think some of the evidence I found was better than others. One thing I discovered or rediscovered, I probably knew this at one point and forgot about it. I had completely forgotten that in the comedy film Troop Beverly Hills, starring Shelley Long and featuring Jenny Lewis as one of the campers in Troop Beverly Hills, there's a whole dance lesson sequence in which Shelley Long performs the Frug, as well as the Freddie and some other 1960s dances.
Hmm.
And I couldn't help but think this has to be a key version because I could not find another version of the Frug that really looked like Jenny's version, other than the Shelley Long version from Troop Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
So that was really fascinating for me. But Chris, my question for you: Jenny killed all the dances. I think we can both
Hmm.
agree with that. This is
Hmm.
nothing but praise and additive. Which dance on stage did she kill for you the best? Like, which one did she nail most perfectly?
Okay. They all absolutely ruled, right? And if
Mm-hmm.
I watched the music video for
Mm-hmm.
this, and if I were answering in general for this song, and I were to include the music video, I would
Mm-hmm.
say the RoboCop. She delivers the RoboCop
Mm-hmm.
really impressively in the music video. However, during the live performance, the big energy was in the Frug, and I have to believe that like that moment from her youth in that film with Shelley Long has to be the thing that inspired um, this little bit, this quirky little tune from
Yeah.
Jenny, right? And so that easily the Frug was the one that really had me going.
Yeah, if any podlings out there are like dance experts and you can educate me here, or like Chris, if your lovely wife has any insight into this type of dance movement, I know she is quite a skilled dancer and dance instructor. Um, Yeah, from what I could gather, the Frug seems like a little bit of an open-ended sort of transitional dance. Like this is how you can like mix between some of these other period-specific moves, like transitioning through your upper body movements. So I think there's room to put a little mustard on that one. For
Love
my
that.
money, at this show, I loved every dance, just like you. I know Jenny questioned her RoboCop as part of the banter,
Yes.
but I really loved her Freddy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I thought she was killing the Freddy. I went back to watch like an original rendition from Freddy and the Dreamers. And like she was getting those full hops in, like really
Hmm.
getting those arms up in the air. And furthermore, I realize it's just a bit for the song. I can do the Frug, I can do the RoboCop, I can do the Freddy. I cannot do the Smurf. I've got to confess, I did not know the dance move, the Smurf, so I looked up some instructors doing it, and my takeaway was like, I kind of think Jenny could kill it.
Dude, same. I'm watching the hip hop instructors on YouTube that you sent, and I was like, oh, ironically, I think it's the simplest of the dances involved here. They're all like pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, a lot of
basket,
arms.
a lot of arms. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I like what you said about the Frug being sort of transitional. Shelley Long certainly was. She took us right into the mashed potato in the twist. It did feel
Mm-hmm.
like the Frug could be the bridge between. That's funny.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. We've got to wrap up. We always kind of laughingly think that our media lights are going to be like 30 minutes and
Mhm.
that rarely happens. I think we pulled it off once for a Bluey episode once upon a time.
Yeah,
Uh,
I still brought one and a half seltzers because I knew it wouldn't
oh
really be
yeah.
30 minutes.
And we'd actually be right in the outro right now, except we have to do something unprecedented.
Yes.
And we've got to take a moment, not only to invite honorary podlings from a Media Light experience, but normally we're more restrained, but tonight we have to induct two honorary podlings. We talked about this in advance. We both picked one of these folks to induct, Kris. Because I have a few little mini games to bring us out. Can you induct your new podling first?
Yeah, I'm really, really excited to welcome Blake Sennett
Hmm.
to the Podling family. Honorary Podling Blake Sennett, because there was a moment in that wonderful banter, and we didn't highlight this earlier, where a fan highlighted the sadness that could be felt. And he's like, hey, man, you're doing it right. That's what we do. That's what our music is for.
Hmm.
And Randy and I both looked at each other in that moment. We said, Sally Sparrow.
Sally Sparrow.
Sally Sparrow. So if this were any other episode, I think that Blake would certainly be up for the Sally Sparrow Award.
Yeah.
But because his heart was so in that place, we were equally moved, Randy and I, talking off pod, and grateful to be able to welcome Blake into the illustrious halls of the honorary podlings.
Yeah, and Blake is so deserving, I think, for all the reasons we've stated tonight. And like, listen, Rilo Kiley is a big part of season two of Media Lit. Our most listened to episode. We're talking about them again here. We got to bond
Mhm.
over their music. So of course, we have to also induct the great Jenny Lewis.
Yes.
Uh, who, whether she knows it or remembers it or not, she really helped us out a lot and helped us get this podcast to a lot of ears. And I'm going to appreciate her for that forever. I'm going to appreciate her for her artwork. And to celebrate her, I would just like to share a little travel tip we got from Jenny Lewis at the show. She was on stage with a very lovely glass goblet. Uh, that had her water during the performance. And she stopped to talk about it. She talked about the merits of the Madonna Inn. She said, if you're ever in California, check it out. It's a great spot. Uh, there was a little banter moment. Blake was curious if Jenny paid for that goblet or if she might have stolen it, might have lifted it. Kris, do you recall her answer to that question?
Yeah, she doesn't steal things anymore.
And it was just so perfect because the life that she's lived, a child celebrity, a star, working through all this stuff. I know Stevie got into this, Jenny exploring the things she was dealing with. So like that sort of harkening back to a moment in her life that was tough. But she had this beautiful goblet. So I found myself, thanks to Jenny's recommendation on their website, and these Madonna in glass water goblets are they're sick. I love these things. And it's not quite a prop, but Jenny did have it on stage. So Kris, we're each going to get to take home our own Madonna in water goblet. You can hop right on the Madonna in website if you're at home and you want to take a better look here. The design is more or less the same
Hmm.
on each goblet, but they've got a wide variety of glass types, glass colors, and styles. So, Kris, which one do you want to take home? The currently sold out and discontinued models are on the table because this is a wish list.
Wow. You're so generous.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I didn't know that, but also I didn't feel compelled to pick anything from there, so I'm okay. Um, I am excited to take the Ruby Luster goblet.
Mm.
It's going to be in the 9 ounce version. It's important to me. With the 9 ounce version, you can opt for the Madonna in lettering at the lip or not. I think I'm going to
Yep.
forego the lettering right at the lip there. I don't need the extra texture. I want a smooth bit
Sure.
of glass for sipping. But I chose the Ruby Luster because, first of all, born on the 5th of July, the ruby is my
Mm.
birthstone. And for that alone, I have a love for all things ruby toned. This luster version has like an iridescence to it that puts these goblets with like their bold texture, like
Hmm.
just south of tacky with the iridescent sheen,
Yeah.
like perfectly, like not quite tacky, not actually tacky, but like just tacky enough to be delightful, and that's the way I
Yeah.
want
Yeah, like there's this sort of gleam coming off of it.
it. Hmm.
It's evoking this rainbow. It's almost like those show lights on stage are going while you drink from the goblet. I think that's perfect.
Thank you.
I struggled with this one because I really love every version. We've got some more solid colors. I also went with one of the more sort of like clear styles of glass that's got a little bit more of a shine to it. This one is currently not in stock, but I am going after the Aqua Opal Luster Goblet.
Ooh.
The blues and the greens were like really appealing to me. The way I broke the tie was with my prop cave. And I was thinking this one's going to look the best in my Fantastic Four kitchen that I picked up a few weeks ago. So that's going to be the one. You can come over. Maybe you can bring your Santa Claus hot chocolate goblet and we'll have some great drinks from some great glasses.
Absolutely. I would love to toast you with these fancy ass glasses. Really grateful. I'm looking at this blue family, the sold out blue family now, and
Hmm.
you made the right choice. There's some beautiful ones, but that aqua opal, ooh,
Mm,
how lovely.
thank you. I really appreciate that. So, Kris, we've done it all. We've gone beyond the usual constraints of a media light to do this. I hope that we have honored our beloved Rilo Kiley, who are now locked in with media lit lore forever, whether they love it or not. Kris, thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm planning on dropping this right away. So, do you have anything you want to plug? Anything you got going on, maybe on your other shows or in your professional life you want to share with the folks out there?
Well, let me first start with the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, if you love our Rilo Kiley episode and this subsequent Media Lit or anything else you've heard from Media Lit, give us a follow everywhere you get your podcasts. Most recently, we've introduced some video content for you all, or we're sorry, I'm not sure if it's a good thing, but it's there and it's on YouTube. Find us, subscribe, leave us a comment. We'd love to interact with you and hear your thoughts. And then go to your favorite social media platform, and there you will find us. We're on Instagram and Twitter and Blue Sky. Um, we're in the places. We're not on Facebook. We're not going to be on Facebook. So please do me a favor and find and follow the pod. As for me, besides Media Lit, I'm also the co-host of the Batman by the Numbers podcast. This is a monthly podcast on the Pop Break podcast feed. Usually, we're diving deep on the Dark Knight from a number of angles, whether it be villain rankings, definitive Dark Knight drafts, or what have yous. This year, though, we've been in our year of Superman. It's our world's finest era. We've had to celebrate our best blue Boy Scout. And so, Randy, you were kind enough to join us for a definitive draft very
Mm-hmm.
recently. That is live on the podcast feed now. Um, there were some shenanigans as always. It was not without its Party Man reference. For
Yes.
context on that one, you got to go back and listen to some more Batman by the numbers from the archives. But upcoming next, we'll be talking more about live action Clark Kent's and more Superman for the rest of the calendar year. So join us over there on the Pop Break podcast feed for Batman by the Numbers. I'm
Beautiful.
also an actor and a voice actor. I'm a father and a husband. You can find me doing those things on Instagram and Blue Sky at Kris_Ingersoll. That's Kris spelled like Kringle.
Beautiful. And I just want to shout out my Pop Break podcast feed pod, which is Pod of Doom. I've been having so much fun with Justin and Chris Mancini. We did a whole series on the police, and we're currently wrapping up our Black Sabbath run on Pod of Doom.
Mm.
Tomorrow night, we're recording our penultimate episode. We're going to be recording the final episode later this month. We should be wrapping up in terms of when our pods get released in October or November. So I'm sad to see that podcast come to an end. But I've been teasing this for a little while. Keep those ears tuned to the podcast Pop Break feed. We got a pretty fun announcement coming for the future of that podcast that I am also very excited about. So that's my little tease for today. And as for social media, find Media Lit Podcast. Find us on all those places Chris listed earlier, and you will find me emblazoned on all those accounts as well. And I'd love a follow, but follow our podcast first and hit us with those emails. We really want to get your content into our episodes. Thank you for this not so light media light and for hanging with us. And we'll see you next time.
I cannot do the Smurf.